like, hey, how are you doing type of thing. How's your day? What is there something that you want to share with everybody? I'll pass to you, David, because it looks excited. You're muted.
I'm so excited. You could see it. It's true. Body language is so revealing, much more so than words and text. And I'm so excited because my friend Dirgadas and I are. I sense the kernels of the seed of an idea for a extended work party slash meditative session where I'm going to go visit this wonderful individual, perhaps at his residence, perhaps within the month, and maybe perhaps help him with some construction and of course deepen our meditative practices as always as the core of personal growth. And oh, we're hatching some wonderful ideas there, Durgadas, and I'm very excited about it. But I get excited easily, I think. And so yeah, I'm in a good mood. I'm here just to observe and listen. I'm not a core SoftGov member, and I've probably been to one or two meetings, but I'm here to learn, and I like what you're about, and I really think without SoftGov, like it's just too hard. We need the softness. It's a balance, and that's probably enough speech. I will pass it to Mitch.
Thanks. I mean, my day's going pretty good. Hanging out with friends up in the mountains.
Yeah.
Just beautiful scenery, Pacific West Coast. And yeah, I'm moving in a week. I'm moving to Costa Rica, so I'm super excited with that. Putting everything together, buying vehicles, buying houses, all this crap. So lots of stuff. I could go on, but excited to be in SoftGov. We've got lots of stuff to talk about, I think. So I'll keep it moving, and I'll pass it to Durgadas.
Yeah, I'm just happy to be here, and I have kind of a serious topic to bring up. I feel like we're when I was talking before about maybe talking about some shadow things. The reason why I want to talk about the shadow things is because I feel like there's some stuff that we're ignoring that's really golden inside of that shadow. And then if we pull that stuff, if we talk about the shadow stuff, then we'll be able to find those nuggets of things. And then that'll make people more excited to talk about it in the hope that we could hopefully find those things out in the future. But the thing that I'm observing now is that there seems to be in the headlong rush toward hatching and other things that I'm noticing some of the sort of underlying sort of boring system administration sort of work and stuff is kind of feeling a little bit neglected in terms of when we're trying to do things in comms or whatever, we're just kind of running into a bunch of roadblocks, or we have folks who are sort of changing passwords to things and then not updating it in the common password thing. So I just would like to maybe talk about if it's possible to have like not just a stewards thing, but like an administration layer inside of our governance structure, so that there's the stuff that is just clear and complicated and isn't all about pushing the TEC forward, but more about sort of laying a foundation of normalized standard operating procedures. Hopefully that stuff can sort of exist and be treated in the kind of almost separate way, so that it doesn't fall prey to what I see happening a lot in terms of the token engineering commons. And the weird relationship between token engineering commons and common stack is a little confusing in that way too. So I'd sure like it, and maybe this is a little bit late, but I do feel like we're missing a bit of an administrative layer in terms of that. So that's the thing I'd just like to bring up and maybe discuss today.
I'll pass it for you. Juanca, you want to go next?
What is the question, Livy? Sorry.
It's just anything you want to share about you, or Durga started to bring some agenda topics, so that's good too. If you have anything you would like to discuss, and just anything you want to share.
Yeah, for me it's super interesting. The 75% governance give back vote. It closed yesterday, and the percentage like meets the requirements of approval. But I also see that there was like some last minute signaling, and I feel that yeah, we shouldn't ignore that signaling and try to incorporate it in the solution. And also yeah, I am excited about everything that is happening. It's difficult to always like please everyone in this like very collective and big context. But yeah, I for sure think that we are all trying to do our best, and I also want yeah, to be able to process all input that we receive in the system. And I'll pass to Tam.
Just things I want to share. That's it. I want to share that the team that worked to get the vote out, like to get the word out for the vote, did an exemplary job. I still don't know exactly who's responsible. I think there's a team effort, and it's really cool that it just, so I think that I'd like to say, I don't know if this is the right context for this.
David did a great job.
Yeah, David.
And Chewy. Yeah, all the comms teams.
The comms team did a really great job, that's right. And there was some individual outreach that was really great. So I was just overall very impressive. And then I just see all these really cool initiatives happening everywhere. And it's just really cool to see. It's really cool to see a lot of very motivated individuals taking initiative, having agency, and moving initiatives forward. I guess that's what I want to share. That's the first thing that came to mind when we started talking. I will pass back to you, Livia, to pass on.
I pass to Nate.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just really impressed with the vote turnout. I really like seeing that. I really like seeing the no's. It's good to have a diversity, and it's not just 100% consensus for everything. Like, a lot of decisions are going to be difficult, and it's okay to have those no's, and it's healthy and productive, and it's just good to see. I think that sometimes, I don't know, with what Wonka was saying, like maybe there's something to learn from it, but sometimes maybe there's not. There's just people who are like, I don't want to agree with that proposal, and that's fine. But yeah, I think we're doing a pretty good job. I think that, I agree with some of what Durgadas was talking about in terms of having kind of this administrative layer, especially as we keep growing and growing. These are going to need to be addressed. Otherwise, people are going to keep running into obstacles in terms of decision making, in terms of discretion. And so I'd like to see more guest guidance and documentation around that. So something that I've been trying to work on as well. So I'll take a stab at it, and I'll pass it to Zepti. Maybe you haven't gone.
Yeah, thanks, Nate. Yeah, I went to the dentist today, so I cannot move my mouth. It's still sleeping. But yeah, I mean, I'm really happy to work with Ivy. She's amazing, and yeah, I just wanted to share that. She's so cool. I mean, the whole community is super cool. Don't take me wrong, but yeah, it's I don't know. I just feel it's super cool to work with her, and I'll pass it to Nick.
I just want to say thank you for, I guess, like, everyone who's been giving feedback. I'm still kind of figuring out how to, like, I'm still not sure what the process is really to, like, bring ideas to TEC and get advice other than reach out to, like, a couple of people. I know that there should be a post in the forum and a ZenHub issue, but it would be nice to, like, have, like, a clear path that someone can follow if they have an idea. But I love being here, so I'm excited to watch how that unfolds. Sorry, I passed you back to Liviade because I'm not sure who hasn't gone yet.
Thanks. I'll pass to Ben's.
Hey, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Kind of settled in after a big move across the country, so I kind of feel what you're up to, Mitch, although not moving to a completely different country. So best of luck with that. Sounds exciting. I've been working a little bit on the glossary. I think it's in just kind of clean it up a little bit. There may be some more content we want to add, but yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to. But overall, feeling a little bit more settled in the new place and balancing obligations with my previous job, my I guess current job, and trying to branch out into doing some more work with this group and a couple others. So yeah, I'll pass to Epiron Creations. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Epiron Creations. That's me. I just wanted to say hey to Mitch. I hope you're going to do some kind of permaculture stuff like out while you're out there, like agriculture or syntropic forestering or marine permaculture or marine aquaculture. Hope you dive deep into all that stuff because I don't know. I'm in here for TEC to create an edge between permaculture and crypto because you guys are digital ecosystem creators and permaculturalists are real ecosystem creators. I think there's a huge edge there to be had. But yeah, not really anything to say about the voting. I've just kind of been a lurker for a long time, but I'm always hanging around. So yeah, hope everyone's doing well and can't wait for the gravity thing. I'm excited for that.
Welcome. I pass to Mount Manu.
Thanks, Lee. Yeah, I thought it was interesting the comment that Chewy raised and Noggin as well. Yeah, just working on a lot of different things within different working groups and on another DAO. I'm just enjoying life pretty much. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Lee.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. So I put some topics in the agenda, but feel free to add some more topics. Like these ones are the ones you guys mentioned. Now in the intro and some things to follow up on. And also I just wanted to share, as we spoke a lot about it on the last meeting, of having like rotative stewards and how that could be interesting. I posted in SoftGov chat yesterday if anyone wanted to lead this call today, but just to put that invite out again. If anyone wants to lead a SoftGov call, feel free to jump in. Maybe we can bounce ideas around, or if you have something already, this space is open and we just need to talk in the chat to coordinate. So I thought it could be cool to start with the looking again on the mural board and just taking some actions. And if anyone wants to take ownership of this and from issues and some things that are interesting, So there was a lot of things. I kind of grouped things around, and I think they belong to multiple working groups. So there are some things that are like in the Steward and the Steward working group, and some of the meeting ideas that we had, like rotative facilitation, like I mentioned, and then developing new meeting formats. I think this can come together with rotative facilitation, because I feel like maybe people start to get like into a flow of like the cadence of the meetings they facilitate. And then if someone new comes and they have new ideas, I think it's totally welcome for experimentation. And then this one, I thought it was interesting too, inviting contributors to facilitate calls with specific themes. So if there's something like the gravity training is doing now, like inviting someone to talk about a specific topic, we can have that in all of the working groups, and this can be like very fruitful for everybody. And then maybe some of these topics we can discuss more in the stewards call. And then having async collaboration, how to contribute. And this maybe goes more to the comunitas working group. So having, I don't know, improving the calls to action for what people can grab to work on async, having the onboarding guide that you guys are already working with. So this is already in process. A guideline for bringing ideas to reality. I think, Nick, you also mentioned that today. So this can be something that if someone wants to, if you want to like take this, Nick, to kind of develop something, like what would be a pathway that if someone has an idea, how does that move inside the organization? Like maybe it goes to the forum, and then people can like give other ideas to it, and that can become an issue. Or I don't know, people can find others to, it can become like a little task force, like, oh, we have an idea to work on something, who else wants to work on this, and then create a little group from there. So some things here to be explored on Comunitas. And on comms, something around how can we solicit and publish tweets, Medium articles. We copied it. Do we have enough people that care?
I
This
wrote
is
that
not
one.
Yeah,
That
do you
was
want to expand on that?
that was me asking how can we get community involvement in suggesting publications, and then vet those publications with the community. If anyone is a member at One Hive, they have a social curation channel that does that, and it works quite well. But I think maybe there's a lot more community members that are able to participate in it. So I'm not sure if we have the size of the people who would like to be involved, but it'd be great if, John Doe could say, hey, I have a great idea for a tweet, and submit that somehow to the community for a yay or a nay. And if the community feels it's appropriate, we can tweet it or publish it. Is there a system? I think there used to be a system like that here, but it.
Could I?
Yeah.
Some feedback for you, David. I think that I like that idea a lot, and I think that giving people access to that Twitter document that we do have, the CSV file.
Yes.
I think that if anybody wants to submit one, they could put it there. And like honestly, I would, instead of rather the community deciding on a decision like that it would be up to your discretion. Like I think that it's fitting and it suits the narrative at that point. Yeah, I would much rather have that decision put into your hand rather than make that kind of an obligation or burden on the community. But that's just my opinion on it. So,
and you know, that's how the old system used to work. And I asked if anyone used it, and they said, yeah, Tam, and I think they said Tam and Livy were who used it. So maybe I'll remind the community that it exists. And if this is not related to SoftGov, I apologize. I thought it was relevant. Okay, thanks, folks, for the feedback.
Yeah, no, this is definitely a comms issue, but this came up as like some of the cultural practices or some things in our culture that we should address. So I think and I think this can be related to like the ideas process that Nick was talking about too. And this could like be, I don't know, an emoji vote channel. Like it could be a chat on Discord, and then ideas of tweets are posted, and then people can just go yay or nay, like you said, with emoji vote. That could work. So I will.
If we see input, a lot coming through the existing method, I can expand it into that.
I will assign this to you here, just like very informally put that you're taking care of it, and then maybe you can make an issue for it on GitHub. That would be great.
Okay.
I will say that I would really love to see a polling channel though within our Discord. I really do think the benefit of having access to polls within our Discord channel would be beneficial to people who are making decisions individually to seek feedback that doesn't have to be as formal as a forum post, but can be like just a quick, hey, this is what I'm doing. Do we have any objections or any things about this? And if not, then you can go ahead and execute. If so, you can engage with those people.
I have a question about this too. I think there is a kind of an assumption that and this kind of goes into comms a little bit too, in the sense where are there spaces in which a person can engage, you know, due to limited bandwidth? So, for example, I limit almost entirely all of my involvement in this community on Discord. I don't, you know, it's continuously, I'm always the very last one to comment or vote. It always take, you know, somebody might say that to me a million times, but my bandwidth is not so great that I can go look at the thing or figure out where it is on the forum or sort it out. And, you know, so I just limit myself to this. So in terms of communicating, you know, it's a governance question too, right? Because everyone is so involved, and so I do so much context switching as it is. So I tend to limit my my involvement to the Discord. So if it's not in the Discord, or if there are just too many channels, or you know, there's just a whole lot of that, which sort of defeats my ability to be as effective as a contributor as I could be in some of these things too. So I think in terms of when we're doing campaigns and communicating, and it, like I say, it goes down to governance in terms of informed consent. That we should be communicating things in parallel as much as we can. So that's just another thing I just thought of that brought up by what somebody else was saying.
Yeah, I do feel afraid that like the more channels we have for people to signal things, the more confusing it gets, because then like maybe people go to one channel expecting that someone is looking there, and then other people are in the forum. And I think we've been creating like a good momentum in the forum for this signaling things to work, and then when it's needed that it can be voted on. I think if there is the need of having something else, like that, it should be very very contained, like the idea that David had of doing something like, oh, just for tweets there is this polling here. It's not anything mandatory, but it's just a signaling from the community that can be fun. And then people know that they go to that chat because there's no other chat that they can go. But when it comes to proposals, I think if there is like a signaling space on Discord and another one in the forum, and then there is that tool, that thing, that, I don't know, just my sense is that it would become chaotic and confusing. So the other ones, there was quite a lot in cultural practices. I think having feedback protocols, guidelines, feedback practices would be something really cool. Something I brought up a while ago, but I end up not having the bandwidth to do it. And it came up again last time. So I think it's something that could be fun if someone wants to take it. Does anybody feels like called to this issue? Make a little like feedback practice. Like, what would it be if I want to give feedback to anyone in the community? Like, how do I do that? Is there a little template? Something I had thought that could be fun is like, what if in a month, I pick 5 people that I will be willing to give feedback if they accept it. And I put myself available to receive feedback from 5 people if anyone wants to give it to me. And then there is a little template that can be like filled in. And there could be like a 30-minute call to go through this feedbacks, or that could be a practice done in groups, and how would be the difference for groups to have this feedback loop or for individuals to have it. Does anyone feels excited about this and wants to take it?
Sounds so great. Also, like if it was paired with like personal shadow work, so that can like both the feedback and work together to improve as an individual.
Maybe, I don't know, it's an idea, but it would be good to do it like without names, because sometimes yeah, you can say like, okay, I didn't like the feedback coming from Livy, and maybe that would like, yeah, cause certain frictions. Then if I just read the feedback and I think that it's just from the community.
No, I think the what I thought it would be, that it would be very individual, like that this process would be like, oh, me having a moment with you and then sharing feedback if you're open to it. So it wouldn't be like out in the open for everybody and without like context, but it could be, and then it could be anonymous. That would make more sense. But maybe that anonymous feedback might be a little impersonal and difficult to deal with. I don't know, but Nick, if you feel excited about working on that, I think that's great, and I would love to see what you come up with.
Well, for myself, I know that I had a great conversation between Nate and I the other day, just talking about different roles in the TEC and what he was doing and so on, and it felt like that was a very generative sort of discussion. So I do wonder if there's some role that we as Gravitons, and in terms of us, potentially participating in other DAOs as a governance thing, to say that we have like an office hours thing where we say, okay, if you're having a personal shadow thing, and we listen to you, do you know what I'm saying? Like we without judging and without, and so you could have somebody to sort of talk, or if there's just somebody you've come to trust, to be able to communicate, hey, you know what, your perspective is valuable to me, and therefore I'd like to elicit, maybe a communication that would, work, and to sort of actively encourage that. Like I know I do that with anybody here that I feel, is great. So like the other day I said, hey, Livy, I love your hair, or whatever. I'll just say stuff like that to people. But not everyone might feel that comfortable to just say, hey, I could use a hand reflecting on this shadow thing that I've noticed, or I'd like to elicit feedback, not only for myself, but maybe for my role or for my stewardship or whatever. So I don't know, but that seems like it would be a cool governance thing. I know that we generally have a culture that allows for that, but it could be that we could create some kind of a formalized system. That way, when we generalize it to other DAOs that might not have this kind of open culture, it could hopefully crack that egg open and make it maybe more possible.
I also just want to make sure that there's like awareness around the buddy system that Freshell is pushing, and for Giveth and the common stacks, and the idea. So like, I don't necessarily think anonymous feedback is a good idea for sure, because it's very easy just to disregard. But it's nice to build a rapport with someone and then have a continual feedback system where there's like, space for that idea. And it's not only about feedback on the person, but it's also about the person to give feedback on the organization and the direction, and be able to have space to think about it and actually take that space. So it's definitely a two-way street for feedback. And the buddy system is worth investigating as well.
I'm not aware of that buddy system. Can you maybe tell me about it? Is that something that we've set up here? I'm not aware of it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it comes from the holacracy space. It's pretty basic. It's just like, how do you have, a lot of you don't necessarily have a manager in a flat organization, so you have a buddy. And the buddy doesn't tell you what to do. He just fulfills the other roles of a manager that, are useful still in a flat organization, specifically feedback rounds for the organization and for the person. And also, having space to be a friend, not be lost. So like within General Magic Giveth and the Common Stack, we're trying to implement this. It's still halfway being implemented, so I don't have any results on if it's good or not. But the basic idea is that everybody has a buddy, and that buddy is like for them to give repeat, like to have space once a month or on a regular basis to like, just like, talk about the organization, how they could improve, and how the organization can improve, and have these general discussions. And then, there's not like a formal structure of how the feedback gets into the organization, but if it's good, and their buddy feels like this is important, then you have two people who are like, no, we need to make this change, and then it can usually be pushed through is the idea, or addressed at the very least. And that's it. It's just like anytime someone comes in and takes on a formal role, they have a buddy. And usually the suggestion is to build a network of buddies. So like one person might be your buddy, but you're not their buddy, right? They have someone else who's a buddy. And then you have this like kind of web of people.
Yeah,
Definitely
I think that's
interested in taking on a buddy in this space.
cool. So do you want my intention with opening this board was really to start spreading some issues so people can have some things to work on, and that we can all like share our progress in the chat. And we've been having this feedback of like, oh, it's really hard to find something to do. So how can we transform these ideas into issues and into something that people feel excited to work on? So I had the sense that you, Nick, Aperon, and Durgadas are excited to work on something like this. Would you like to take it on, or anyone that feels particularly like, oh, I want to lead this effort?
Yeah, I always do my pirate support thing, but I don't know that I'm a good person to be out front of it.
I have an unpopular opinion to express. I'm famous for those, so bear with me
Do
here.
it.
Go ahead, Nate.
No, I said do it.
Okay. So kind of coming into the steward role and like learning more about like the internal goings on with TEC. One thing I've started to notice is like the struggle between inclusivity and efficiency. So it's like this trade-off of like, how do we include as many people as possible versus how do we actually keep the org value aligned, on its roadmap, and like efficient. So the problem is that we're constantly onboarding people and trying to get people to work, and we're just giving them stuff to do, but we're not really taking a step back and looking at how does this contribute to the mission of the TEC. So it's like, okay, we'll give you something to do, like we're giving people stuff to do, and they're expecting to be rewarded for these contributions, and so we say no problem, but then we're kind of at a point where the sheer inertia of just like onboarding is almost consuming like all of our bandwidth, and so there's nothing left for actually advancing token engineering. So it's like we've got this weird trade-off, and I think we're at this really awkward point where it's like we're so lost in our tools and our processes and like onboarding and stuff that like, what are we actually doing to advance token engineering?
Yeah, I see that in some of the other groups, you know, and it's like I'm one of those people who's kind of trying to find a role and trying to find something to do, but I never want it to like take away from the overall goal. I don't want to have busy work just for the purpose of inclusion. And I think that probably as, you know, this whole space grows, I think that's going to be something that every DAO and organization is going to have to deal with. But I definitely see where you're coming from there.
Yeah, I see. Go ahead, Eduardo.
Yeah, and yeah, I just wanna like, I completely understand what Mitch contextualized. I feel that it is true, but at the same time, advancing token engineers comes as a result of certain processes being developed, and that being called, for example, cultural build. And I don't think these processes will be constantly on the making. They will be more like constantly implemented. So for me, in order to advance token engineers, these things has to happen first. And we need to have a clear vision of certain internal processes first in order to properly execute them in a community and properly be able to advance anything. So for me, it's interesting to have a constant check-in of these processes to see if they are actually a process that we can evolve, or it's a process that we need to move on and abandon or evolve or whatever. But keeping in mind that it's a process that will help advancing token engineer. So I think it's a nice exercise to filter out which practices probably are just like adopted because by default we start doing them, not necessarily have a productive mean to it. But yeah, so I have a unpopular opinion about your own unpopular opinion. So that's it.
Yeah, just quickly sharing on that too. I definitely hear you, and I think we have a lot of management processes that are troubling now, and that we're trying to clear up and make it smoother. And a lot of the negative feedback that came from the session we did in the last call was about this, and about how do we get things to flow and not get like so stuck on processes and bureaucracies and all that. But then I started to have some like interesting experiences with that. For example, the agreements that Anna Marie took to work on, she involved a lot of people that were joining to work with her. And that evolved to a good point, like way better than it was before, and she felt great about it, and people also felt good about it. And then Katie had this idea to start sharing like what some calls for action that people could start working on. And then I put out the glossary there, and then Ben took that on, and he has been like very little time management on that, and he's been like going for it. And then there's just a few questions that are easy to work through async. So I think as those experiences are happening, like more things are being delegated. And then sometimes it takes a lot of time to delegate. And I think that's what you're talking about. Like sometimes it's more difficult to pass to someone to do than doing yourself. And that's where things get clogged a little bit.
Well, building on that point though, the thing is like every working group has the agency to decide what their projects are. But every working group is always asking for a budget to reward people. And so it's like almost like these people are asynchronously deciding their own goals, and then they're building and building and building, but there's no like overall sanity check of like, is this value aligned or is this useful? But people are going ahead and doing the work and being like, I built this thing, and then we realize that like a month from now, like that wasn't really that useful, you know? So it's like, how can we like stop wasting our time building these things that we find out eventually we don't need?
Yeah, this is kind of what you're talking about now is what I was sort of observing about how comms works, where we have all these disconnects between access and and message, and you know what I'm saying, like work was done like, you know, a year ago with Jess and Griff and Livy about the tone and all the different things, and so but you know the people who are working in comms now don't necessarily know where that board is or what that work was, and so yeah, so it is an interesting thing to sort of carry forward, and so yeah, that's part of the reason why I was saying, you know, in terms of administrative layer, like I know the stewards are there, but it is interesting because like the question that we're asking goes across SoftGov, transparency, and comms when you're talking about some of these questions. And so like, how do you, what are the things that connect those, and how do you make all of those things work? Because if there's a security thing, you want transparency. You know what I'm saying? Like, anyway, it's just a lot of interesting stuff there that comes up.
Well, so moving to a more token engineering oriented topic, we have the 75% governance give back that was approved yesterday with 92%, I think, of votes for it, and we had a really good voting turnout. A lot of people participated, and some discussions started to develop in the forum about like, is this a good way to go? Is this not a good way to go? And two things about this that we need to work on, I think. One is creating a more clear template for Snapshot. I thought that was clear, but it was not clear. There was a little bit of a confusion. So I think more work has to be put there to have like just a very, like, if I need to submit a proposal, that's what I do. This is the information that needs to be there. And also just sharing some of the steps of moving forward from here. And Juan, maybe you want to share something about this?
Yes, Livy. Well, that this wasn't an easy vote, and this vote continued the implementation of the proposals that we voted on during the impact hour distribution. I think that it was really good that we have had a lot of engagement, but also I think that even though that the signaling discussion happened yesterday after that, or during the last hours of the vote. I also think that maybe we should integrate that feedback. And the other thing that I also think, and that I also saw from the first time, is that I see that there's more difference around the way that we could implement a technical solution than the fact of returning governance to core contributors. I think that the debate right now is more centered on the technical solution of what would be like the best way to do that without like taking too much risk or making something that that wouldn't be like well received by all the community. So I think that further discussion on the technical solution should be held, and I think that the common swarm calls are going to be super interesting because as they are the ones that will uh, or that would build the development. It's very important to know what are their opinions, and also that the people who is engaging in this signaling, then they can engage in the discussion on common swarm to try to choose the best solution.
If I may say something, for me, it's I felt this little disconnection from the effort that is put into build this and put it up in the snapshot from the aspect of letting the community know about it. So I felt it was little giving attention to it, and I think around 60% of the 200 people we outreach were like, "Oh, I didn't know this, and thank you so much," because there was like I had no idea about this going on. So there's, for me, that's a signal of again, the same effort that it's put into this kind of building up this proposal should be at least given a little bit to the process of distributing the proposal. Otherwise, I feel we are doing this only for 20 people or 10 people that will have votes, and then it doesn't make much of a sense because then it's not the community vote, it's just 10 people vote.
I'll tell you right now, I have never seen a DAO vote work without somebody individually pinging and DMing everybody who they want to vote. It's the only way I've ever seen it. I also went out and pinged at least the top token holders that I knew and just sent them the link. And that's, I don't know of another way. So like, because we can tweet it all day and we can send emails. Maybe sending emails might work really well. But that's, it's also like, when I'm in a lot of these DAOs, like the Gitcoin DAO, and guess what? Some guy from Gitcoin, his name's Scott, every time there's a vote, he messages me and tells me a little thing about it, sends me some links.
We had 76 votes. This is like unreal. This is absolutely unreal. Never seen that happening. And it's for a vote that is just a signaling of another vote. It's really like, I think we should be like proud of this number, like everyone involved on making this happening, and respect the results of the voting. And the meaning of this voting receiving 92%, almost 93% of approval is that we are moving forward to the iteration of this technical solution. So this gave the green light for the Common Swarm team to research a solution. And this solution will be proposed to the Hatch DAO because it has to, because it's the only way for that solution to be integrated, because it needs to touch on the bonding curve and on the coding and minting and burning tokens and stuff like that. So those are the 3 steps. Like now they will start developing this. You will go to the Hatch DAO before the Commons upgrade. And then once the work is done, we'll submit we'll submit it again for funding on conviction voting. And the reason we're not asking this funds for the hatch DAO is because we shouldn't be proposing so many things to the hatch DAO. Like, it's an expensive tollgate fee. We want to make it very like contained to proposals that will be critical for the commons upgrade. So it's better to separate these things and not ask any funds from the DAO now. From even a behavioral perspective, to not open that door, like Griff mentioned, and then we'll have a retroactive funding after, and it will be better because we'll know exactly how much it costed, even though we signaled in this proposal that it's going to be 5,000 DAI.
I sure wish I could understand any of this, to be honest. I didn't vote. Seemed like this thing seemed like a mistake to me. It seems against the basic principles of what we set out to do here, and that was a bit of a disappointment. But I feel continuously left behind by everything having to do with the voting process, and so my bandwidth isn't that great, and it takes a lot of energy and effort for me to understand. This seems like legalese to me. I sure wish somebody would just come and explain these things to me. So once I saw that, I was like, well, okay, that's the Senate just voted to give itself a raise, and so that's just what I heard in that. So I don't know. I continuously struggle with my involvement here. I just kind of show up and say what I say. But in terms of governance and this and that, like, I don't know, it's a constant problem for me.
I'm happy to talk more about that with you, Durgadas. We can have a chat and I can try explaining everything, how it happened. This is a particularly confusing one.
I would like to suggest that we create some type of template for both titling these proposals as well as the structure of the actual description of the proposals, because I do think if we do not really reinforce that proposals for signaling, that it could get lost on some people, as well as the implementation, the process of implementation. What are the next steps for this proposal, for example, if it's signaling, things like that, I do think should be included, because with the ambiguity of it, I always look back at the Uniswap, infamous Uniswap decision to do the DeFi fund, where they voted yes for this proposal, and then all of a sudden the implementation of it was completely not okay with what the community thought was going on. And I do believe that we need to have as much information to do that with, and a template to abide by is the first step for making sure that happens.
Completely agree on that point.
Yeah, and see, for me, like, people are talking about Snapshot. I have no idea what that means, to be honest. Like, so I thought we were using SourceGrid. I thought we were using, we have all these different platforms, and every time there's some new platform, I'm like, what the hell? And what does it have to do with anything? And, I'm just completely, so, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I just don't have the, I feel like an old granny here. But I just wish to hell that I could, be involved in this sufficient that I could have enough information to make decisions.
All I can say is thank you, Durgadas. This is great feedback. We really appreciate it, man. I'm sure you're.
I'm sorry. I just constantly feel lost.
You're representing a very. You're representing an underrepresented voice that I think is a majority of people. So thank you so much.
Yeah, can I also please join that call for the lost people, because I missed the hatch due to like personal circumstances, so I had no idea what was going on with the hatch, and I couldn't vote on this either.
Yeah, so just to say one further thing about this, it's for this reason why I'm constantly trying to say we need an absolutely anchored narrative. The comms group is absolutely critical. There's so much that's beautiful about this particular DAO and the way that we do things, but our ability to externalize that narrative is atrocious. And so I get that that's going on, but I feel like I can't insert myself in the narrative of the DAO. When I meet with you guys, it's great and wonderful and awesome, and you're all amazing, and the culture of the token engineering commons is there. But there's this weird shell that kind of exists around it that would not seem like that on the surface, and it's a constant source of frustration for me.
Thanks for sharing, Durgadas. And I think, yeah, maybe this is definitely needed to have some time to grab like all the questions and just have a run to try explaining all of them with time and calm. And I'll open that convo on SoftGov. We can have like a big AMA, and please, everyone that is in this call, just shoot all the questions there. And we have 3 minutes left, and there is Graviton training after this. If anyone wants to share anything, last words, something that we should be looking at, this is the time.
I just wanted to thank Griff because I actually didn't. I mean, I don't know how other DAOs necessarily work the sending messages privately to everyone. So I this is a completely kind of new thing. But yeah, so I'm actually happy with the amount of people who vote, even though my opinion was the opposite. It's just the overwhelming feeling of just having two people doing it. So that was the where it came from. So that's it.
No, I love that idea. You know, it's just the same. It's the same with content in comms, right? It's like you spend all this time making the content, but then you don't spend time on distribution, and no one reads it. So if we spend all this time making the votes, we should spend time on distribution so that people will vote.
Yeah, I've noticed that just in general among companies around the world and all the people, there is a spectacular shrinking idea about how long it takes to actually communicate and distribute these things. It's three things. It's what is it you're trying to say, and architecting all of that, making the message beautiful, and then distributing it is the third. And we often forget this last third, and then just act like there are only two pieces. So the only other thing I want to say is just that thank you guys for hearing that, and I feel like the expansiveness and the beauty and the acceptance of the culture needs to be better narratively explained.
Thank you, Durgadas, and thanks so much, Eduardo and David, for taking on pinging people about this vote, and Juanca and Griff that worked on it, and all of the Commons Forum team. And we're going to move on, and let's all help each other to make this process be as clear as possible. Thank you all for coming, and have a great Graviton training.